My greetings again to everyone. In our previous talk, we spoke about what is a constitution. Before we engage ourselves in understanding what is the constitution of Mauritius, what does it entail, what are its provisions, it was important for us to understand what is a constitution. We have noted that a constitution is a system of government in a country. And then we explained that it is made of a collection of rules to regulate the machinery of a government. Then thirdly, we explained that it defines the powers and sets limit to those powers which can be exercised by the machinery of government. That was a clear definition of a constitution. Coming more specifically in the context of Mauritius, we have to define what is the content of the Constitution of Mauritius. We have Section 1 of the Constitution of Mauritius, which states Mauritius shall be a sovereign democratic state. Three concepts have been used here: sovereign, democratic, and state. First of all, we have to define Mauritius as a state. Taking reference from the Article 1 of 1933 Montevideo on the rights and duties of the state, it has provided 4 criteria for Mauritius to qualify as a state. Number 1, Mauritius has a defined territory, just like in any other countries. We find that it should have a defined territory. Mauritius is obviously an island. It doesn't share borders with anyone, so it has a defined territory. Number 2, it has a permanent population. The population is not like migrant, is not moving from one place to the other, is not an inconsistent population. It is a population that is well defined, well demarcated, and it is permanent in nature. Then the third criterion is it is an independent government. It means that it has an undisputed control of power. What does it mean? It is not controlled by any foreign powers. It has got its own jurisdiction, and it can contain and control its own system. And number 4, it has the capacity of self-determination. What does self-determination mean? It is the power to enter into treaties with other states. Treaties are contracts, agreements that are made between Mauritius and other states. So when Mauritius is an independent state, it has got its own powers, its own capacity as a legal personality, the power, the capacity to enter into contractual obligation. So it has first the power to enter into treaties, and it has the power to conduct its own business in its own name. So there's been no dictates from any other powers or external forces that can dictate how Mauritius should conduct its own business. Then another important criterion is the exchange of diplomats with other countries. In international law, recognition is given to states, and as a recognition, we have got diplomacy. We have got, many diplomats come to our country that represent the interests of different countries. And it's a mutual arrangement between two countries where we accept the jurisdiction of each state, and therefore we send diplomats in order to carry on the business of each country so that everyone would understand the principle, the philosophy, and the way to conduct actually the activities between the two states. The next question that is very pertinent and it's important for us to understand is that what do we mean by Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state? First of all, we have defined already a state, that Mauritius is a state. Secondly, now, to qualify more what has been stated in the section 1 of our constitution, Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state. Let's define what is sovereign. It means that Mauritius is recognized as an independent state under international law. When we talk of international law, it's the law that has been accepted as a norm that is followed by every state. We have the United Nations, for example, as a very broad platform whereby all the states are actually member to the United Nations family of nations. It is recognized by all the states under international law. Secondly, Mauritius enjoys legal equality as an international person in the family of nations. Whenever Mauritius is represented in the United Nations or any other international forum, it has the equal right to vote. And its vote carries, as in any other country, the vote is equally as valid and as legal. So it enjoys equality in terms of recognition in the family of nations. It exercises supreme power over all persons and property within its jurisdictions. Now, when we talk of jurisdiction, we are talking about the boundaries with which it controls. It has got power over all the persons and all the property. Whatever is contained within the boundaries of Mauritian government or Mauritian territory, this is all belongs in a way to Mauritius, and Mauritius has got a supreme authority over all the persons and property within its jurisdictional borders. Next, how do we define sovereignty of Mauritius? It can conclude treaties with other states in its own name. We have already spoken about this. The next one is, it is free from control either over its internal government or over its foreign relations. So in that way, it gives a clear demarcation of its jurisdiction, that now no authority, no foreign power can come and dictate terms on the government. It has got its own way of handling and developing and ruling and controlling any of its actions within the precinct of the internal government and over its foreign relations. So in that way, we call it sovereign democratic state. The next question that we ask, because we have already mentioned that Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state, we have defined what is a state and what is sovereign. Why do you call Mauritius a sovereign state? The next point is that, why is it called a democratic state? It is because Mauritius satisfies the following essential features of a democratic state. Number one, it has the power to govern by a collective body. This collective body, they are the elective representatives of the people. When we have got to elect representatives to make policies for us on our behalf, we elect these representatives and they formulate laws, they formulate policies for the better development of the country. So the power to govern lies in a collective body which is democratically elected. We have got the idea of respect, all the what you call the rights, the fundamental rights of the individual, of the citizens, are all enshrined in our constitution, right? They have got the freedom of association, the freedom to vote, The freedom, political, social, economic, cultural rights are all enshrined in our constitution. So now it is those collective body that we are talking about. This collective body is they form the elected representatives of the people. Secondly, what are the signs that we know that this country is a democratic country? Number 2 states there is separation of powers, ensuring independence of the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. This separation of powers, it's a very, very cardinal point. It's a very essential aspect that we need to know. The independence of all the institutions must be maintained. The legislature has got the function of making the laws, which doesn't interfere with the executive that execute those laws and policies. And neither the legislature or the executive have any power on the independence of the judiciary, which is the custodian of the law that interprets the law. So in that part of separation of powers, there is a distinct role of each arms of the government. Each department, each system, the way they conduct their own, they have got absolute freedom, independence to execute their own role and function. This separation of powers is a very important element that we need to know, that would show that the country is democratic. The point is about how do we govern a state. It is according to the rule of law. The rule of law is a concept by which everyone is under the jurisdiction of the law. Nobody is above the law. We make the laws, but we need to be controlled. The rule of law prevails where any individual's or authority's action is subject to judicial scrutiny. Anyone making a decision that is invalid, that is illegal, that is unreasonable, that is unprocedural, or it is not proportionate to the decision that has been made and how it affects an individual or authority, this has to be scrutinized, has to be actually investigated and supervised according to the rule of law. So rule of law is the main issue that we can say that it is a very important element that would ensure that everyone enjoys the freedom of how to live in a free society. The fourth one is all the citizens enjoy political, social, and cultural rights, which is a very important element in any democratic state, where freedom is given to everyone to enjoy out of self-respect, dignity, and all that, which also is aligned with what we have got, the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In that one, when we look at this important document that has been written by the United Nations, it sustains what we call self-esteem and dignity of an individual. And our Constitution has enshrined the same philosophy of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And it has been found that all the citizens in Mauritius, according to our Constitution, should enjoy equal political, social, and cultural rights. Finally, what do we have? When we spoke about earlier, the topic was Section 1 of the Constitution of Mauritius states in the very beginning that Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state. Having explained what is a state, what do we mean by being sovereign, and then what we mean to be a democratic state, finally, to encapsulate all the principles that we have explained, is that Mauritius is recognized internationally as a state within a territory and population. It has got a defined territory and it has got defined population. It is not a moving population not a migrant population. That's number one. Number two, it has an absolute jurisdiction over its internal and external foreign relations. This we have explained already. And third, very importantly, is Mauritius is governed by democratically elected representatives in accordance with the rule of law. So having explained all this, what we come to the conclusion that Mauritius is a sovereign democratic state because it qualifies, it gives definition to all what is explained in Montevideo, that these are the criteria on which we judge any country to be a sovereign democratic state. Having said so, I thank you all very much for listening to me. There will be our next presentation and another topic will take over again. Thank you.